baby shower and back to the field I go because the boys already started without me. Anyways, I thought it'd maybe be a good time to finally share my story on here. Alright, so I farm full time with my dad. I've said in a previous video we farm both my grandma's land and my grandpa's land, which is kind of unique. So on my grandma's land, that's not our main farm. I am considered the 5th generation, but on our main property, I'm considered the 4th. Anyways, we grow corn, soybeans, and spring wheat. I just got into cattle. We do have a history on our farm of livestock. My dad grew quite the operation over the years. So when he was young, his 4-H project was sows, and he went from a couple sows to several hundred sows, and we produced around 7,000 hogs a year. But around my senior year of high school, he asked me if that was something I was interested in. I really wasn't. Pigs weren't really my passion, so we got out. Around that same time was when I went off to college. And in high school, I knew I wanted to go to one school for one degree, and I wanted to farm. There was no other choice. And I think a lot of my passion for farming was due to the way I was raised. When I came along, I'm the 3rd daughter, 3rd kid, and my parents got rid of daycare. My sisters were in school at that time, so I was just with my mom, who ended up quitting her job and doing the books for the farm. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents in the house, and I got to have a lot of experiences with them, which I hold very near and dear to my heart, because I know a lot of people don't get to experience that and be like that close to their grandparents. So I'm very grateful for that, but I also am grateful for the freedom that I was able to have on the operation. You know, my grandpa took me with to trap beavers, or to build something in the shop, or run the grain cart. My mom was very involved too, as well as my grandma. But yeah, they just took me with, and I think that's the best way to be raised, you know, because kids need to learn to just be. And so back, I think, in the middle of my first year of college, so like the winter of 2015, I had a gentleman approach me with a piece of land that he wanted to rent to a young farmer, and he's like, would you be interested? So that's kind of where I got my start, and I can credit me getting into the farming operation to him in a way. So I started that about 9-10 years ago and got my first crop off, and I kept farming that for a couple years, and then I asked my dad for more. You know, I said I really want to get my feet wet and experience this on a larger scale and see if this is something I want to do forever. And so my dad gave me all the non-family land to rent, so I had to meet with the landlords, you know, and tell my story and, you know, what I plan to do, and they ended up renting to me, so that was a big thing for me. Fast forward a couple years, my dad had a couple health scares that we weren't sure if he was going to make it or not, and so we really had to dive deep, and, you know, I had to think hard about, is this something that I want to do? Is this farm going to continue? Or if Dad's not going to be here, what is our exit plan? But yeah, so we worked out a plan, met with lawyers and transition planners, and, you know, here I am. We started the transition to me about 2 years ago. I started buying my dad out January 1st, 2022, and so in a lot of debt, but it's good debt, and it'll all be worth it in a lot of years. But then last fall, or kind of last summer, we've been doing this no-till thing for a while now, close to 20 years, the cover crops, and, you know, going to all these meetings and learning about it. The next step was getting livestock back on the ground, so that was my next project. I wanted to get some type of livestock back out here. I didn't want to get pigs again. That just wasn't, like I said, wasn't my passion. But I had gone to Scotland with one of my bosses from my college, and I learned a lot about the Highland cattle breed and how they can survive really harsh winters, and they, you know, are very good at grazing. And so I did my research and found a breeder near me, and here we are. We're a year into it, and I'm learning a lot about cattle, and trying to figure out my marketing plan. That's kind of my winter project, because I'll have some steers ready to butcher next summer. And yeah, so it's kind of where I'm at in my journey right now. Long ways to go. Still a lot to learn from Dad. Most days I feel like, how am I ever going to get there? But it's fun. Working a family is hard, but it's also very rewarding. And, you know, I honestly can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing than this.